The only thing in writing is what's on the map. The town never agreed to do, I don't believe, I looked through my notes, there was never anything from this office agreeing to do that. I mean, I'm saying, we looked at the site out on the road, but when you say things are in writing, what's in writing is what your engineer put on the map. It's not from this office. So I think that's a distinction.
But that map was signed off on.
Yeah.
That was signed off
by
by
the Wetlands
Wetlands Commission,
Yeah.
but when I talked to them, they said what they were signing off on was construction of your house and your septic. It was not, the town right now, if they signed off on digging the ditch, we would not have to go to wetlands. The town does not have a wetlands permit to dig the ditch.
Agreed, the town never applied for that.
The town did not apply for one.
Agreed.
And when we apply for one, they're gonna look at a bunch of different factors and alternatives. The first thing they're gonna talk about is there a need for the project? They're not gonna care about $44,000.
The need is
Let me
that-
finish, please.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
They're gonna ask, what's the need for the project? And what are some of the alternatives? So Mr. Batiste is probably gonna look at some of the alternatives, including doing nothing, keeping the wetlands the way it is. Because whether it's the town of Cornwall or a private landowner, there has to be a compelling reason to divert water and change wetlands. I mean, the town highway department may have a bunch of projects they want to do concerning stormwater, but doesn't mean the Wetlands Commission will sign off on those projects unless there's a compelling reason to do it. So they may look at other things like piping the water from the culvert down to the wetlands. That would keep, the problem too is that if we move that stormwater through some of the wetlands, you may be changing the character of the wetlands that are there. So they may be looking, there are 3 or 4 different, as Mr. Batiste says, is there a way to channelize that water through your property so that it does not create the problems you have in the spring? So those are all things that we'll have to look at. But we have not, the Wetlands Commission has not looked at that. They haven't looked at this impact or any engineer's specs at this point. I think we all agree that's our next place to stop. But they will be looking at need and alternatives.
When I went before the Inland Wetland Commission 3 or 4 years ago for this, we had 2 meetings. I went to 2 meetings. One in November, one in December. The first one they had already received, each member had already received my maps. And they asked me questions, they looked at it, they specifically said, oh, the town really agrees to do this, and I said yes, and nothing came up. They put it aside, we came back to the next meeting, that was a month later, unanimously, no questions, passed right away. So if you're accusing that commission of only looking at the house, you're not correct. I checked the minutes, it's not written in the minutes that they mentioned that, but by my memory, I do remember they said, oh, the town actually agrees to do this, and I said, yes, they did.
Was that a public hearing? Was there a recording of that? Or was it just
No,
It
it was
wasn't
not deemed
recorded.
a significant impact activity.
So I
There
understand.
was discussion based on my request again, Brian, regarding the need to change the pipe. The need to put the pipe of water on.
And the other thing from Mr. Batista too is, even if we put this pipe through there, this is only going to handle a moderate amount of water. It could be overtopped in a 20-year flood or whatever, which we seem to get every year. So we have to be aware, and also I don't particularly care for this curve in the pipe, because you could get, as opposed to straight shot, you could get stuff in there and that could clog up the whole thing. So we could spend a bunch of money and not make things better. So that's one of the things we'll have to look at.
One of the things he also.
And we didn't realize that when I said sure, I thought we'd do a straight pipe going straight out there. I didn't think we were going across the road here. That's a new deal.
So this pipe now, this existing pipe to the right of their house, it goes across the road and then it just spits right out onto the land?
Yes.
Right there, so then it runs between her house and her septic fields down.
And then I think we had the map, we could see the wetlands show
So
up.
it's all wetlands.
It's pretty wet right when you get past the house. So if you did pipe it from that culvert down into the wetlands, you'd have a shorter pipe and you would then,
Maybe a short pipe.
a shorter pipe, if you went from the culvert straight down past their house into the wetlands down here, you would have a shorter run of your pipe. It'd be
Well,
easier
that's
to
what
put in.
I'm wondering, if that's helpful.
Because that would, right now, you're still gonna have, even if we put the pipe on the other side of the road, you're still gonna have a wet spot right next to your house. And this way, if you put a pipe underneath where the wetlands goes now, from that culvert, you could put 150 feet, and then all the water would go below,
Down into the existing
below where your
wetlands.
septic is in the wetlands, and that would also keep the water in the wetlands, and it would also filter that water as opposed to piping it right into the brook. Because you'd be discharging water into a wetlands as opposed to just pouring it into a brook, which also is a concern because this is part of the Furnace Brook watershed, which is flood prone, as Joanne and people in Cornwall Bridge know. So if we can slow some of that water down, that might be an extra advantage, just as an option.
And I will point out, when I met on site with Sean Hayden and
Not me.
Mape and another member of Rachel's family, the intent of work and design on that property is to address proper water management on the property. There's wetlands, there's been disturbance because of construction. The site is supposed to be stabilized, which will go a great ways in handling water on the site, to have a stabilized site, unfortunately. Rachel?
So are there ways to take the water in the existing culvert, 18-inch culvert?
Yes.
There are ways to enclose it in some fashion, maybe in a perforated pipe, so it's not entirely enclosed. So some of it's discharged along the way, underground, and then eventually 150 feet out, it comes out into the wetland area below the house.
Yeah, probably will prevent all of this from getting too crazy and spring too soggy. That's what I'm asking, if you think that that,
You would just need to be
Is a
careful
viable
of
option.
septic.
Right.
that line, right, that line that goes to your pump system.
Yeah,
The intent of the alternate plan is to mitigate some of the issues of the water, the impact of wetlands from the construction of the house. I mean, that house had to be carefully constructed, and I will read some of the project narrative. The primary concern with proposed development is the migration of silt and sediment from the proposed construction activity to wetlands located downgraded in the proposed construction area. Silt fence erosion barriers are to be installed downgraded. The recommended maintenance program for erosion sediment controls consists of inspections on a weekly basis on or before all property that goes on to that the property had to be under control at all given time. I think we all have to agree that, it was a very difficult site to do. There is obviously some exposed soils, how much is whatever, but when we met on site, it's an attempt to do what is appropriate for wetlands and water courses. That's a natural resource. This site is wetlands with or without the septic system and the house.
Sure.
And the Wetlands Commission has to look at any application in terms of impact to wetlands and water courses and how to mitigate any damage, which is possible erosion into wetland soils as a result of the construction activities. So fence, except for mitigation of whatever, and the commission in this application, that will go to the commission in 2 weeks will address, that will have to address all of it.
I don't quite understand what your point is. If you're talking about me establishing a site plan, I have 5 years to do that. As far as the 150-foot pipe, I think that the only issue for wetlands would be minimal disturbance to wetlands. We don't want cutting machinery in there and doing pipe work or something, but
And mitigation of any impact that is environmental.
other than that, on my part, that hugely mitigates water issues. It's not gonna ever flood into my basement. I won't have to worry about that, so.
So
to
my
me,
question would be the sequence of events. In the next event, would be the town applies to inlands or wetlands to do this, or does the town or someone else look at alternatives?
That's what I have been doing for several months.
So what we could do, if Rachel
Well, that's
feels
what I'm
there's
asking,
no,
I'm trying to sort of figure out where we're
if there's
going.
no obstacle to, and I'm sure the engineer can figure out how to deal with pipe going from your house to your sewer, we could have him look at options like the pipe and measure it up so we can know more when we go to wetlands. I mean, that's an obvious alternative. That people came up with it probably puts a bigger pipe and handles the stormwater better. It solves, it's easier for the town to do with our own forces because we're not dealing with a big ditch. So there's apparent advantages.
Yes, there
But
are
it-
very
but
apparent.
Apparent advantage to us, but there's 3 or 4 other people in the room. As far as when wetlands come, they may say that has too much impact on the wetlands up there.
Well,
But I think at least we can, if we have time between now and then, we could have Batista come out and take a look and talk about a swale on your property, talk about a pipe on your property, so at least we'll have an engineered neutral opinion on feasibility, what makes the most sense. I think that's a good way forward. The town does have some responsibility to deal with wet water, and we're getting increasing amounts on people's property. We get requests every month to deal with the water on people's
I
property.
think ultimately, David
Right.
Batista won't necessarily tell us what's the best alternative. He'll present us with several possible proposals, and one of them may be apparent. Or one of them may need, what we may think is more appropriate,
Right.
or less expensive, or easier, may or may not be within the wetlands.
Well, the Wetlands Commission has one thing that they have to do.
Right, there are competing or varying agendas.
Some interests overlap and some don't. So,
Right.
but I think we can get more information in the next 2 weeks and move the discussion forward, if Karen thinks that's a good idea.
I think that's what
I
I've
mean,
been
that way we
working
have a
on
much
for a
more-
while, so I'm very pleased if there would be some sort of consensus.
We'd have a
on
much
moving
more,
again forward in that
and he
direction.
can come to the meeting, we'd have a much more productive meeting, get things going farther, whether it is dropping, but at least if we get our plans organized and get people on the same page, that's an accomplishment. So, I can call him up and have
I'd
him
like
get
to
going
meet
on
him, and I would be
see
glad
what
to bring
is-
Sean, because I think Sean
Right.
has offered services to deal with some water management on site in terms of what would be good for wetlands, maybe to deal with the invasives of the outlet structure, which is taking over the property and things like that, and that would benefit, I think, everybody and the natural resources on this property.
And our small problem is that wetlands meets the same night as we do, so we would have to have, and this might take some time, and I don't think you want to be here till midnight, so,
Yeah.
we would request they do a special meeting.
Well,
Have you talked to your chair
no, I haven't,
about
I'm
that?
calling to see, but the one thing that would have to happen is the application can actually only be accepted that night, and not a lot of discussion, because it must sit for 30 days. So because it's regulated, and within 15 days, there could be a petition from 15 parties pushing it to public hearing. Otherwise, as a regulated non-significant activity, a discussion amongst involved parties. is
So,
tabled.
do you think you
At
can?
that first meeting, they'll at least have some
And then at the
discussion.
second meeting, it is.
Sure, at the second meeting they will as well.
But normally, an application is accepted, there is minimal discussion. The commission could be asking for more information, they could direct me to get additional information, that will give them a chance to go out and look, et cetera, but there can be no action on it because of the regulated nature.
So do you think it'd be productive to have David at that meeting or wait for the second meeting?
Probably wait till the
Just
second.
have some maps, if we have something similar to this, saying we're looking at alternatives, here's 3 or 4 different alternatives, they can look at the property, and then you have a site visit or something during the first meeting, second meeting. So, but
And we could actually do a commission sidewalk. You know, it'd be a public meeting with no testimony taken at it, but we could do a full sidewalk. But that's a little bit.
So would you need to would you need a special meeting, or you just have it on a regular meeting night?
I think we could have it on a regular meeting and then,
It's dark, wouldn't it?
No.
Just
Sidewalk?
to accept
no,
the
not that
application?
night, to accept it.
Oh.
Not walk, no, I'm not.
Just don't think Saturday.
Walking midnight.
It's not gonna work. That might be fun.
Might be a moose.
So then you would do your best to represent the town in front of the board, and you say this is what we got, and you can meet with David or something. But we wouldn't have him there until we actually discuss the merits of the options. Following month.
And at this, the town, this board will be contacting, or you dealing with that part of
After
the
they
alternatives?
Yeah, and I will, yes, alternatives, and like I said, I will call in,
Is this
Some help
with
from
David
some-
Batista or some different engineer?
No, this would be Batista, so it'll be consistent.
Okay,
and there,
that's-
and also, the Wetlands Commission has the right to ask for, you know, advice from somebody who is engaged in wetlands, who have been offered the services of a soil scientist. And
Sure.
somebody that's in design engineering, and that is Mr. Hayes. And Mr. Neff has agreed to also be involved.
Anybody has good ideas, we'll be glad to hear them.
Yes, and they will
That'd
be,
be good.
they will be contacted. Is that okay, Rachel?
I would like to be contacted when you guys come.
But we're not going on your property without your permission.
You did today, so I would like to be contacted.
I can go on because I have an open permit. I'm allowed under the.
Okay.
Okay, so I will let you know what day Mr. Batista will be out there,
Thank you.
okay? So then, next thing is to move that the selectmen apply to inland wetlands to discuss drainage alternatives at 31 Popple Swamp Road. Any discussion? Second. All right, she moved, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. So, that's that. Next, we have our annual meeting schedule. And that is, we have St. Patrick's Day, Rosh Hashanah, Election Day. So,
So you're saying annual meeting schedule, it's our meetings or the annual meetings?
these are our Board of Selectmen's meetings
Okay.
twice a month, not including
There
special
was
meetings.
only two that I had questions.
Right, so you see that?
I don't think I understand.
Yeah, she emailed me. My questions were just, one was St. Patrick's Day and one was Rosh Hashanah, which it does not matter to me either way, but maybe you guys had an issue.
You can't have a Rosh Hashanah. St. Patrick's Day doesn't matter.
I think
How
we
about
changed
Election
this one too. Well, then this one this year, we just went to a different place.
Yeah, I think that worked out all right going.
This one we moved,
Yeah, we can go.
and this one we kept, we just moved the venue.
Tuesday, when is Labor Day? Labor Day.
Labor Day is
The
the 7th, late.
Yeah, no, just,
Yeah.
it says September 1st is the first Tuesday.
Wait a minute.
Correct.
I've got Rosh Hashanah on, well,
14th and 15th.
first day of Rosh Hashanah, does Rosh Hashanah have more than one day? 2 days. So the 15th, which is Tuesday, that'd be the second day of Rosh Hashanah.
Less critical.
Does it stop at sunset?
Sunset to sunset.
No, it's also, that's Monday and Tuesday, this is funny calendar. Right.
Monday, I think.
So we got Board of Finance
It's on that Wednesday.
on that Wednesday.
You could go the 22nd, because
Right.
it's a 5 Tuesday month. So
Yep. Want to do that? Because that's not bad to do anyway, because it's good to check the bills.
You need to sign checks no matter what. So.
It may be, yeah, actually that would work out because Labor Day is so
Yeah.
late, Labor Day is so late to begin with.
Yeah.
Yep. So 22nd is all right, right? Grandparents' Day is on the 13th.
Sunday won't be any.
Okay.
Self planning and zoning, there's some wetlands, some goes plans.
National Bosses Day is on the 16th of October. Anyway, is that all right? Make that change to the 22nd? Is
That's fine with me.
that okay with you, Richard?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
You gotta
okay,
get,
so
you gotta get a
let's-
3-day spread there, 3-week spread between,
Right.
between one set eventually.
Right, but then that next Tuesday is the 5th Tuesday, so it's not like you're meeting 2 weeks in a row.
Right, but I was just saying, somewhere it's gonna be 3 weeks and 2 weeks.
Right.
We're just making it.
Right, either way.
Yeah,
Sure.
we're just making the 3-week first.
So then,
Saying, we're gonna approve,
yeah. We'll approve that as proposed, changing, I'll make a motion to approve that as proposed, changing the meeting on the 15th to the 22nd.
Second.
just go to you.
Joyce has her own copy, you got that, Joyce?
Yeah,
Good.
and then as part of that motion, you want to make the election day in the library?
Right,
Because we declared that, but you don't want to be a special.
yep.